Hello and welcome to today's Business Spotlight, where we are joined by Rob Lyon of PlayFair Marketing. Rob, how are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks for joining us.
No problem at all.
I'm really excited about today's conversation, actually. So let's jump straight in. Tell us what you do and how long you've been doing it for.
So I'm the founder and CEO of PlayFair Marketing. We're a digital advertising agency, and we've been doing this since 2017.
2017. Awesome. What motivated you to start the business?
Yeah, the story. Well, yeah, the PlayFair story is quite an interesting one. Back in 2017, I was actually caught up in the Westminster terror attack, which is not where people expect this conversation to go. So I was in London with work, doing a PR event, crossing the bridge just as it all kicked off. Yeah, I managed, a scream from a colleague meant I jumped into the road to avoid the car that was striking everybody. It was a real moment where it made you really reflect on life. I was incredibly lucky that I was walked off the bridge that day. Tragically, I was one of the main witnesses because one of the ladies that died was the lady closest to me, who I witnessed her unfortunately being killed and so on, other things. So it was one of those moments where you have a what's the meaning of life type moment on the back of that. And I spoke to my wife when I finally got home and said, what I was very happy. I mean, I was a very successful marketing director. It was corporate life. It was nothing wrong with that. But I had two very young children at the time. I've got two daughters, Heidi and Tilly. And she just said, if you could be home more and have that element of flexibility. And I could see the only way that would work is working for myself. So I was fortunate. I had lots of good connections. I initially started as a marketing consultant because that was the quickest route to being sort of self-employed, if you like. But then as I got more clients, they needed more support, the alternative things, and then slowly I then sort of start to recruit people, and it's then become a point now we're quite a fully fledged agency. So it's I think I often describe myself as an accidental entrepreneur. It's not something I was wired to do probably, but it's something that a certain thing in life made you think, okay, life's short. How do we make the most of these opportunities and take control of your own life, I suppose?
Absolutely. We can be on the hamster wheel, and there's often a shake the cage moment that wakes us up, but your moment is not at all what I expected. So
it's one that I don't often talk about it, but people in these scenarios, it feels like I'm using it to my advantage. But often I suppose said it's your story. You can't dilute it or change it. So I don't look for sympathy. It's just my why. It is what it is. It's still very harrowing. It still lives with me. But when you have, this week's been a challenging week. As a business, I've had some issues with client, all those sort of things that happen. But it makes me very, reflective. What really is important. It's not, it's getting to the end of the week, positive, a happy team, a happy family, and we go again next week.
Yeah, perspective. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And since 2017, has it been everything that you hoped it would be? Obviously, going from consulting to the business, has it been everything you hoped?
Yeah, it really has. It's been different. I think what I was really fortunate is whenever I have a moment like almost like what could be a sliding doors moment as a business, I reach out to someone with some real experience, someone more senior than myself, and say, okay, I'm now at the point where I need my first employee. What do you recommend? And he just said, get the best person you can afford. And if you know and like that person, all the better. So Simon, our managing director, he was a close friend, worked with him before, could just about afford him based on where we were on our business journey. And he took a small, bit of a pay cut to join because he believed in the journey. And, it's been an upward trajectory from there on in. And I really protect, if we're not enjoying it, it's wrong. I'm not doing this to, build an empire necessarily. I'm building something to be proud of, but something that we enjoy working in every week.
No, that's amazing. How many have you got in your team now?
We're now six. There's six of us in the team, and we're going well. I was actually talking to someone earlier about, we've got a real sort of momentum now in terms of clients coming on board, and we were discussing our next hire this morning, just to think it's about, again, this isn't about making it as lean as possible and as profitable as possible. It's about enjoying the process. At the point where it becomes too much work for everybody is the point where that's not what we're here for. We're here to do a good job, not squeeze every penny out of everything that we could do.
No, I hear you loud and clear. Enjoying your life and the process of that is something that obviously comes through PlayFair marketing as well. So tell me a little bit more about the business. What makes you stand out in the industry, would you say?
I think as we've grown and when we started, I would say we were more of a full service agency where we would do, because when you're new, you don't say no to any work really. So we would do a bit of web developing, a bit of PR, but we've really now focused on what we do best, and that is driving sales and leads businesses. We will support clients if they have a website requirement, and we won't ever say, no, we can't do that. But we're very focused on our job for you is to deliver sales or leads or whatever your goal is, and do that as efficiently as possible. And we're just the right balance between, we've got some incredible creatives. So half our team is creative, the other half are very analytical. So it's combining the two, whereas we can see what creatives are working through the analytics, and they can then speak back to the creative team to make that advert better. And it's being really data driven is really important, because this is where I contradict myself. So I'm a believer in being data driven, but the only problem with being data driven is you're really only referring to the past always. So what's really important is be driven by what has worked and improve on it, but don't be scared to try something completely, sometimes just weird. Sometimes just an idea. I like to test the creative team. Try something that's just off the wall. We put it into the ad system, and you never know if you don't test and try. So we're very experimental. We're driven by the data, but not scared to try something completely new, because it could be a big unlock you'd never have if you just listened to what the dashboards and analytics tell you.
Oh, I love that. Experimental. I'm just going to go back a step. What made you, what was the deciding factor between saying yes to absolutely everything to realizing where you wanted to focus?
The real key factor of being focused was just delivering the best thing for our clients. They may have felt like they wanted a press release here or a packaging change there, but it was the way that we were able to clearly, when we send in an invoice at the end of the month, could be really clear that we have delivered them X. Whereas some marketing can be, it's beautiful and fluffy and creative, but some things are, I feel, for businesses, certainly the stages where some of the businesses we work with are, they're nice to have. What they need in their part of their journey is progress. And I never would feel comfortable sending in an invoice for what could be maybe interpreted as marketing fluff. Things are just pretty, but they've got to have a real purpose and have driven an action at the end. So and really the digital advertising is just what we're best at. And we could see quite clearly when we focused on digital advertising, people's sales went up, people's leads came in, everyone was happier, and it just kept us really focused. And as we were growing and recruiting, it just meant I was bringing in the right people to make us better at those core things.
No, I understand. So attracting the right team to then attract the right customer base, and it's a really nice,
absolutely,
a really nice cycle there. We may have just answered the next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What would you attribute your growth to?
I would attribute our success, and it sounds a bit corny, but to really genuinely caring about the customers we work with. We've walked away from some clients because their values weren't aligned with ours. We've got to be we work with companies we really care about, and I'm often my position with clients is often I'm referred to as like their marketing director. So we try to own the strategy. So I own the strategy side of things. I sit on their commercial board meetings very often, so that it's by being aligned to their business goals. Sometimes when you're plugged in, say purely by a marketing manager, there's nothing wrong with that, but that a marketing manager might not be aligned with the overall business. So when we're really a part of their planning process, their annual budgeting process, I can tell them what the strategy should be, work with their sales manager, I can work with their FD in terms of making sure the budgets are right, work with their product development team to make sure those things are coming down the line. So I sit very much in this sort of strategic level, but then I've got the team behind me that delivers all the good stuff that really delivers the sales. And I think by being so ingrained in the companies, it's just, they're more like relationships. They're not, we refer to them as clients, but it's not unusual to have a call on a Friday with the client. There's nothing much to say, but have you had a good week? A client called earlier just to say, how's the week been? Really good. What are you doing at the weekend? We've got those sorts of relationships. And that also means you can have difficult conversations too, openly and honestly. Whereas if you're just transactional with somebody, it's hard to really be that ingrained in their business.
Yeah, definitely. And do you think that also aids for the experimental side of the creativity as well, that it provides that freedom?
Yeah, it definitely allows us to it just gains trust, I think, is the most important thing. Because we are very data driven, there's nothing to hide. This is how much you spent this week. This is the ads that we produced this week. This is your sales, which I'll present to them on Monday. But I think, why don't we try? And some things have been really, about one product in particular, client, we said, why don't we try and tell people that it's very expensive? It's not, but it's really good value. And there's a tendency to, when you're pushing for sales numbers, to make things cheaper. Well, let's go the other way and actually say, this is expensive, but here's why. And they're a bit not sure about that. But actually, the customers have really resonated with that message. It's actually, rather than having to discount the product to sell more, we've told people this is expensive, but here's why. And that wouldn't get past a lot of FDs and people. They think, well, whenever we're driving for cash, we need cash now or whatever. But yeah, it just enables you to have that trust, to make mistakes, because if you're not trying in marketing and making some mistakes along the way, you're not doing it right.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you've already alluded to the fact of spending time with your girls is important. Having family time is really important. And I do love this next question, because I get a different answer every single time. How do you balance your personal life with the demands of running a business?
I'm very clear that for our entire team, so we have it causes headaches for our HR people sometimes. I use an external HR department, but we are so flexible that I'm a big, again, maybe being a father of girls and seeing the challenges that they may face in terms of maternity or childcare and all those things, that not just for me, for everyone, we have 100% flexible time of working, home versus the office. We have an office. I'm in my home office today, often is the way on a Friday. Unlimited holidays. We very much make sure that the job can get done in any way, shape or form. And I think it's very easy to feel you haven't got time. And you almost as an excuse. For example, even picking up my daughter from Rainbows, it's only picking her up, but I can make that happen at 5 o'clock on a Thursday. There's no excuse really to not. So it's really being strict with yourself and actually working up. I wouldn't make a decision that's detrimental to the business, but I feel that you can always there's always time. There's 24 hours in every day, and there really is no excuse. And I do find myself, and I have to have a word for myself sometimes, where I'm in the home office and Tilly might walk in to show me something from school, and I might think I'm in the moment here, but no, there's always time that will still be here in 5 minutes. That question about well, God knows with her, she comes up with all sorts, but it might not seem important to me, but it's really important to her in that moment. I put down work and you can pick it up at any time.
I think that's wonderful. I think that's absolutely brilliant. You're speaking my language when you say there's always the time. I just want to touch on sort of managing the team. So this is quite a hot topic for business owners, that sort of flexible working, the hybrid working. You mentioned unlimited holidays.
Yeah.
So how do you manage the productivity? How do you celebrate successes together? And how do you create your work culture? 3 huge questions there, I understand, Rob. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate that I'm kind of the ideas guy, the strategy guy, but Simon, my MD, he's worked previously for some really big organizations, managing big teams for projects, for some major retail partners. So Simon is my guy that gets things done. So we use various platforms. We've used like 3 different platforms this year, trying to find the one that works best for us. Things like Monday.com. We used Notion for a while. And Simon in the last fortnight set up Teamwork, which is working brilliantly. So everyone knows what has to get done and when it gets done by. But it's up to the team then I'm not going to say tomorrow, Victoria, you should do this. She knows on the 28th of August, this is due, and she can manage her time to get that done, which enables the flexibility. So if this afternoon she wanted to go for a walk with her mum, that's okay, because as long as you're planning your weekly work to get to the end goal, we'll all be fine. And it's strange, the holiday piece, it actually had I'm actually now installing minimum holidays because people were taking less. So by giving people the flexibility as much as you like, almost there's like I'm not sure now. So I had to really push to say a minimum of your statutory 25 days plus bank holidays. Take that as an absolute minimum. But if you need a day off here, a week there, or you feel like you want to work from, I don't know, you've got family in Paris and you want to work there for a week, as long as you've got a web internet connection, that's fine. And equally, I do find that there's and I don't do it enough for myself, which is I need to listen to myself more, is the risk of burnout and things, because we are marketing is quite a full-on thing. Deadlines can come out of nowhere. The risk of the team feeling burnt out, I'd rather they were very honest with me and said, I can't do tomorrow, and it's absolutely fine. Let me manage, as long as it's within our dates. If not, I like to try and, I'm not as good as any of my team in terms of the doing, but I can do most things. So if David can't do some videography tomorrow because he's not feeling well, or I can work my way around the camera to do good enough. And as a team, we are very skilled, so everyone can pick up everything, and that just gives us the flexibility that someone can be out of the business for a prolonged period of time, and we can all cope. And yeah, I was really surprised when I've now done new contracts to everyone, which are just going through, that says you must take X number of days, and you have the flexibility to take more.
That's absolutely brilliant. That's just, I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people, actually. So I'm really glad that came out today. What would you say has been your biggest learning so far?
I would say my biggest learning is, first of all, if you're very small, is that first piece of advice I mentioned before, is hire the best person you can. But if you can, hire a friend, because it's hard when you're new. So Simon and I are, we've known each other for, God knows how, 15 years. We worked together for a long time. We have to find time to not talk about work, because we were friends before we were kind of, working together. And it makes life much easier. If I'm having a really bad day, I can just be very honest with him, and he can be honest with me. I think hiring nice people. I have not hired anybody that I didn't really like. There's people that were far better qualified, but brilliant. Some people were brilliant, but I just couldn't see them in my team. One of our new crews, Becca, she's very young. She's just brilliant. She had to just, it was a real risk when I hired her, I would say, because I wasn't going to interview her, because on a CV, she looks quite young, quite inexperienced, but she was the only person who reached out and said, hello, just want to check you received my CV. And I thought, I like that. And she came in the same day for an interview, still didn't have the right experience, but she's been a marvel. She's fabulous. And I think going with your gut, employing nice people, and from a marketing perspective, and this is quite relevant right now, is really choose your clients carefully. I think is quite important. Just because there's a big, pound sign behind a client doesn't mean they're right for you. And I think as we're going through this growth phase, we haven't said no to anybody. And we're now going through that phase of, some people we prefer to work with than others. Their values are more aligned to ours. And I think that's really important, because you could lose that culture and that team and those values by chasing money, and actually to the detriment of everything you've created. So be really careful about who you work with, and bring people into your business that will appreciate you and appreciate your team, and just be nice people as well. I think it's really important.
Yeah, that's a great answer. How do you qualify? What's your sort of basis around qualifying clients? Are your company values obvious somewhere for people to see? Do you sort of?
This is all very current, actually, because we're really going through. I've been very conservative to date in terms of our business growth, because, like I explained at the beginning, I'm what I would say this accidental entrepreneur. Growing an empire wasn't really how I was wired. But as soon as I had a team, and a younger team, they have aspirations for their career and growth too. So I can't stand still just because I'm comfortable as where we are. I need to push on for them. So we've brought lots of new clients recently. And I think it's mainly been the case, it's more understanding the people. It's making sure that they're the right fit in terms of their values align with ours, their working methods in terms of, times of the day for communication and methods of communication, and understanding that a message at 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon probably won't get answered until Monday, because I value my team not being, I wouldn't bother them. So it would end up falling on me, and I'm not willing to sacrifice my Sunday either. It can wait till, then it always can. And there are emergencies, don't get me wrong. There are things that come up, a website's down. Okay, we'll all scramble to fix it. There's something gone wrong. But on the whole, it's just understanding a way of working. And it can be during the onboarding process. It can be quite clear. We have a 3-month generally initial relationship with a company, and we can see by the end of 3 months, we'll do our absolute best. But sometimes along that process, you can just, relationships don't necessarily break down, but you can see further down the road and see in a year's time, I don't feel this maybe will be sustainable, and it'd be to the detriment of everything we've created. So at that point, part ways amicably. give them the best advice you can of maybe the agency that are the right fit for them, or maybe an internal hire might be better for them. But it's just open and honesty, and yeah, making sure that everyone's completely aligned with the journey, because we haven't, apart from one or two potentially, we've got everyone that we've worked with is still working with us because we like working together, and I think that's the goal. I don't really like business that is a stop start. It'd be much more effective for them if we're building a relationship and feel part of their company.
Yeah, brilliant. Which leads me to my final question, actually, which is, where do you see yourself in 5 years, and do you have any words of advice for other business owners who are looking to grow?
It's strange. I think we could be as big as we want to be in the next 5 years. I think that's not a very precise answer, but I feel that's where we actually are at, because we've only really pushed this year to grow, and we've grown a lot in this, only 7 odd months into the year. I think we can be as big as we want to be. I'd like us to be significantly larger in terms of a business, but very consistent in terms of our culture. I'd like to create something that the current staff can grow within, because I've got a very young team intentionally. I'd like them to be the senior managers of my business in 5 years, and I'm very much, running it, not working in it, is something I often say. I do sometimes feel like I'm working in my business when I should be running it. And just build a culture and nice people, and something that I'd like to be part of, for the next 30 years. And in terms of retirement, as long as we're all enjoying it, I think that's the goal. People say, oh, I get approached now by people asking are you interested in selling your business? Well, no, absolutely not. I mean, that may be one day, but I'd much rather hand it to other people to carry on way after I've gone. And just be like an executive director in 40 years time, and there's this fabulous, great business that I can just dip in and out of in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a great goal. I think it's a brilliant goal. Are there any words of advice for any other businesses who are looking to grow similar to yours?
I think don't race to grow too quickly. I think would be my biggest. We were almost going down that path until I put the brakes on recently, because we were accepting every opportunity that came our way. And I can see, actually, by building conservatively, and it annoys a lot of me. Accountants disagree with me, wealth management people disagree with me, but I build. I'm very, very conscious that I build a significant pot, if you like, that if it all went wrong and all the clients, for whatever reason, there was another COVID or whatever it is, everyone's paid for a year, we'll be okay, we can restart and go again. I think if you were chasing growth at a rate of knots and cash flow gets tight and you're struggling to make payroll, I don't think that's a healthy place for anybody. So build a really great platform. My growth, people would argue, is quite slow. In 5 years, I know people that have been running businesses like mine for 2 years, and they're far bigger, but I feel they've done it in a way that, and still, it gives them an element of stress and anxiety. If one client went, will we make payroll? I'll never let that be the case. Everyone should get to the end of the month with absolute confidence that we all get paid, we all go again, and it gives us time to sack a client that isn't right for us with confidence, because we can afford to. We find someone that's right.
I think that's brilliant advice. I think that's wonderful advice. I think what's come through the entire conversation is that life is for living. You can enjoy what you do for a job with flexibility, and going into business with an open heart and an open mind, even if it's accidentally, as an accidental entrepreneur. So it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you today, Rob. I hope we get to speak to each other again soon. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Rob.